Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into one of those stories that just sits with you, the kind where you can't help but think about how differently things could have gone if someone had just been honest from the start. We've got our usual Minecraft parkour running in the background, so settle in and let's get into this absolute mess. This story starts with a passport application and ends with a prison visitor form. In between, a childhood built on carefully crafted lies. They thought silence would protect everyone, but it only made the truth hit harder when it finally surfaced. Before we start, thank you to everyone watching and commenting. I read every comment and really appreciate the support. I'll keep doing my best to help you relax while we dig into some wild Reddit drama. So let's rewind to where it all began, back when our storyteller was just 12 years old, standing at a funeral for someone who wasn't actually dead. I was 12 years old when my mum sat me down in our living room and told me my father had died in a car accident overseas. I remember the way her voice cracked when she said it, how she held my hands and promised we'd get through it together. There was a funeral, a closed casket, because apparently the accident had been that bad. I stood there in a black dress I'd never worn before, staring at a box that was supposed to contain my dad, and I cried until I couldn't breathe. My mum cried too. So did my aunts, my grandparents, family friends I barely knew. Everyone mourned him. Everyone told me how sorry they were, and I believed every single word of it. Life moved on the way it does when you're a kid and you don't have a choice. I went back to school. I stopped asking my mum about him because it made her too sad. I learned to avoid Father's Day projects in art class. I grew up without a dad, and I accepted that as my reality. It hurt, sure, but it was just the hand I'd been dealt. By the time I turned 27, I rarely thought about him anymore. He was just this distant, blurry memory, someone I used to know a lifetime ago. Then I decided to apply for a passport. Nothing dramatic, just planning a trip with some friends, and I needed the paperwork in order. My mum still had all my important documents stored away in her attic, so I went over one weekend to dig through the old boxes. Birth certificate, social security card, the usual stuff. I was halfway through a box of random papers when I found it. A letter, addressed to my mum, postmarked 6 months ago. The return address was a state prison about 3 hours away, and the sender's name, printed neatly in the corner, was my father's. I sat there on the attic floor, holding that letter like it might explode. My hands were shaking. My brain wasn't processing it, because my father was dead. He died 15 years ago. There was a funeral. There was a casket. I watched them lower it into the ground. So how the hell was he sending letters from a prison? I didn't open it. I know, I probably should have, but I couldn't. Instead, I went downstairs, found my mum in the kitchen, and put the letter on the counter in front of her. I didn't say anything. I just stood there and watched her face go white. She tried to play dumb at first, asked me where I found it, said it must be some kind of mistake. But I wasn't 12 anymore. I wasn't going to let her lie to me again. So I asked her point blank, "Is Dad alive?" And she broke. She didn't even try to deny it. She just sat down at the kitchen table and started crying, and between the sobs, the whole story came spilling out. My father didn't die in a car accident. He faked his death. He'd been embezzling money from the company he worked for, siphoning off funds for months, maybe years, and when he realized he was about to get caught, he ran. He staged the whole thing, made it look like he died overseas, left us behind to deal with the fallout, and disappeared. Except he didn't disappear far enough. He eventually got caught, arrested, and convicted. He's been serving time in a state prison for over a decade, and my mum knew, the entire time. She'd been visiting him. Quarterly, she said, like it was some kind of routine doctor's appointment. She'd been sending him money, writing him letters, keeping his secret locked away, while I grew up thinking he was dead. When I asked her why she would lie to me for 15 years, she said she was protecting me from the shame, from the embarrassment, from having to grow up as the kid whose dad was a criminal. She thought it would be easier for me to believe he was dead than to know the truth. I don't even know how to describe what I felt in that moment. Rage doesn't cover it. Betrayal doesn't cover it. It was like my entire childhood had been rewritten in front of me, and I didn't recognize any of it anymore. Every memory I had of grieving him, of missing him, of wishing he was still alive, all of it was based on a lie. She let me cry at a funeral for a man who wasn't even dead. She let me grow up fatherless when he was 3 hours away the whole time. That's when everything unraveled. I left her house and spent the next week in a fog. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every moment of my childhood, trying to figure out what else had been a lie. Did my aunts know? My grandparents? How many people were in on this? I felt like I was losing my mind, and the worst part was I didn't know what to do with the information. My mum kept calling, kept texting, begging me to talk to her, to let her explain. But what was there to explain? She'd lied to me for 15 years. There's no explaining that away. Eventually, I did something I still can't fully justify. I looked up the prison. I found their website, their contact information, and I sent an inquiry. I didn't know what I was expecting, but a few days later, I got a response. My father had been notified that I'd reached out, and he wanted to meet. He wanted to meet. I stared at that email for hours. Part of me wanted to delete it and pretend I'd never seen it. But another part of me, the part that had spent 15 years grieving a dead man, needed answers. I needed to look him in the eye and ask him how he could do this, how he could abandon us, how he could let me think he was gone. If you've made it this far into the chaos, you're as addicted to Reddit drama as I am. Make sure to subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because trust me, this roller coaster is just getting started. Now, where was I? Oh, right, staring at a prison visitor form, wondering if the man who destroyed my childhood even deserves 5 minutes of my time. I filled it out. I don't know why. Maybe I needed closure. Maybe I needed to scream at him. Maybe I just needed to see for myself that he was real, that this wasn't some elaborate nightmare I'd eventually wake up from. The prison approved my visit request, and they sent me a date and time. I had 2 weeks to decide if I was actually going to go through with it. Those 2 weeks were brutal. I told a few close friends what was happening, and they were split. Some said I should go, that I deserved answers. Others said he didn't deserve my time, that showing up would just give him power over me again. My mum, predictably, begged me not to go. She said it would only hurt me more, that he wasn't the man I remembered, that I should just let it go. But how could I let it go? My entire foundation had been ripped out from under me. I needed something, anything, to make sense of it. The day of the visit, I almost didn't get out of the car. I sat in the prison parking lot for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to convince myself to leave. But I didn't. I went inside. I went through security. I sat down in a cold, fluorescent-lit visitation room and waited. And then he walked in. I don't know what I expected. Maybe I thought he'd look different, older, unrecognizable. But he didn't. He looked exactly like I remembered. A little grayer, a little more tired, but still him. And the second I saw his face, I felt like I was 12 years old again, standing at that funeral, crying over a man who wasn't even dead. He sat down across from me. He didn't smile. He didn't reach for my hand. He just looked at me and said, "I'm sorry." And I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. 15 years of lies. And that's what he led with. "I'm sorry." I asked him why he did it, why he left us, why he let me grow up thinking he was dead. And his answer, as pathetic as it sounds, was that he panicked. He said he knew he was going to get caught, and he didn't want me to see him as a criminal. So he faked his death thinking it would be cleaner, easier, less painful for everyone. He said he thought I'd move on, that I'd be okay. You almost have to admire the audacity. I told him I wasn't okay, that I'd spent 15 years grieving him, that I had trust issues, abandonment issues, a lifetime of therapy to look forward to, all because he was too much of a coward to face the consequences of his actions. He didn't argue, he just sat there and took it. And when I was done, when I'd said everything I needed to say, I stood up and left. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't tell him I forgave him. I just walked out. I haven't been back since. I don't know if I ever will. Part of me feels lighter, like I got the closure I needed. But another part of me feels even more lost than before, because now I know the truth, and the truth is so much worse than the lie. My father didn't die. He chose to leave. He chose to let me suffer, and my mum chose to let me believe a fantasy rather than face reality. I don't talk to my mum much anymore. I'm not ready to forgive her, and I don't know if I ever will be. My entire childhood was a lie, and I don't know who to trust anymore. Every relationship I have feels fragile now, like it's built on a foundation that could crack at any moment. I'm working through it in therapy, but it's going to take a long time. They thought they were protecting me, but all they did was teach me that the people you love the most are the ones capable of hurting you the deepest. But at least my family's lies stayed offline, unlike what happened to this next person, whose digital security became their worst nightmare. It started with a text message that I almost deleted without reading. Just 3 words on my lock screen from a number I didn't recognize. "We know everything." I stared at it for maybe 5 seconds, rolled my eyes, and swiped it away. Spam. Had to be. I get weird messages all the time, fake package deliveries, crypto scams, people claiming I owe the IRS money. This felt like more of the same. Just another bot trying to scare me into clicking a sketchy link or handing over my credit card info. I went back to scrolling through Instagram, completely unbothered. That sense of calm lasted about 40 minutes. I was lying in bed when my phone started buzzing. Not just one notification, a flood of them. My Instagram, my email, my Facebook Messenger, all going off at once like someone had set off an alarm I couldn't silence. I unlocked my screen and my stomach dropped. There was a new post on my Instagram, a screenshot, and I definitely hadn't posted it. The image was crystal clear, a conversation between my sister and someone I didn't recognize. The messages were recent, maybe a few weeks old, and in them my sister was talking about her second child, the one she'd never told her husband about, the one she'd given up for adoption years before they even met. I felt my chest tighten. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. I tried to delete the post, but my hands were shaking so badly I could barely navigate the app. By the time I managed to pull it down, the damage was already done. Comments were rolling in, family members asking what was going on, friends sending question marks, my sister's name lighting up my DMs in all caps. I didn't even know how to respond. I didn't post it. I wanted to scream that at everyone, but I had no idea how to prove it. Someone else had access to my account, someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Then my mum called. Her voice was sharp, confused, panicked. She asked me why I was sharing private family business online. I tried to explain that I didn't, that someone hacked me, that I had no idea how this happened. She didn't believe me, or maybe she did, but it didn't matter. The screenshot was out there now. My sister's secret was public. And I was the one holding the smoking gun, whether I pulled the trigger or rad not. That's when I checked my messages. Someone had forwarded my entire camera roll to a group chat. Not just any group chat, the family group chat. The one with my parents, my siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. I scrolled through the forwarded images in horror. Baby photos of my niece that my sister had asked me to keep private. Medical records I'd photographed for insurance purposes. Screenshots of conversations I'd saved for reference and then forgotten about. And worst of all, screenshots of my brother's therapy notes. Personal, raw, painful notes about the abuse he'd suffered growing up. Notes about our dad. Notes he had trusted me to hold on to when he was worried about losing them from his own phone. I felt like I was going to be sick. My brother called me 30 seconds later. I'll never forget the sound of his voice. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't angry. He was just broken. He asked me why I would do that to him, why I would take the most vulnerable part of his life and throw it in front of the entire family, like it was nothing. I tried to explain. I begged him to listen, but he hung up before I could finish a sentence. I texted him immediately. He blocked me. You almost have to admire the precision of it. Whoever did this knew exactly which images would cause the most damage. They didn't dump everything randomly. They curated the chaos. Within an hour, my sister's husband called her. I wasn't on that call, but I heard about it later. He'd seen the Instagram post. He'd seen the group chat messages. He didn't ask questions. He didn't give her a chance to explain. He just told her he was done. By the end of the day, he'd moved out. My sister tried calling me 8 times. I couldn't answer. What was I supposed to say? I didn't do this, but I also couldn't undo it. My parents started fighting, not with me, with each other. My dad saw the therapy notes. He saw what my brother had written about him, things my mom had apparently known about but never confronted him over, things that had been quietly buried for years under the guise of keeping the family together. My mom accused my dad of being in denial. My dad accused her of enabling my brother's exaggerations. It spiraled fast. Within 2 days, my mom had contacted a lawyer. Not for divorce, but she mentioned the word separation for the first time in my life. And here's where it gets absurd. The hacker still had access. They didn't ask for money. They didn't make demands. They didn't send ransom threats or try to extort anyone. They just watched, and occasionally they'd post something new. A comment on one of my old photos, a like on a post from 3 years ago. Small, deliberate reminders that they were still there, still in control. I changed all my passwords. I enabled two-factor authentication. I logged out of every device. Nothing worked. They were still in. I contacted Instagram support, my email provider, even my phone carrier. Everyone gave me the same scripted response about security protocols and waiting periods. No one could actually help me. I felt completely powerless, like I was trapped in my own digital life while someone else played puppet master. My family group chat went silent. No one was talking to anyone. My sister stopped responding to messages entirely. My brother's number stayed blocked. My parents were communicating through lawyers. And me? I was the ghost in the center of it all. The person everyone blamed, but no one wanted to hear from. I finally went to the police. I brought my phone, printed out the messages, explained everything from the beginning. They took a report. They told me they'd investigate. A detective called me a week later and said they'd traced the breach back to a cafe Wi-Fi network I'd connected to a few weeks prior. Apparently, I'd logged into Instagram while sitting in a coffee shop, and someone on the same network had intercepted my session. They used that access to get into my accounts. The detective said it was a common tactic, easy to pull off if you know what you're doing, almost impossible to trace back to a specific person. They never found who did it. I asked if there was anything else they could do. The detective sighed and said unless the hacker made contact again or tried to extort me, there wasn't much to investigate. It wasn't technically illegal to leak someone's photos if they were already on their own device. It was a grey area, morally reprehensible, but not prosecutable. I hung up feeling emptier than I had before I called. This feels like a deleted scene from a sitcom, except no one's laughing and there's no resolution at the end of the episode. It's been 4 months now. My family hasn't spoken, not to me and not to each other. My sister's divorce is almost finalized. My brother still won't unblock me. My parents are living in separate parts of the house, barely acknowledging each other's existence. And I'm left here, holding the weight of something I didn't do but can't escape. I still don't know who hacked me. I've run through every possibility in my head. An ex, a jealous co-worker, a random stranger who just wanted to watch something burn. I'll probably never know. And honestly, I'm not sure it even matters anymore. Whoever they were, they got exactly what they wanted. They didn't need money. They didn't need revenge. They just needed chaos. And they got it. Sometimes I think about that first text. We know everything. I wish I'd taken it seriously. I wish I'd gone straight to the police, changed my passwords, done something before it all unraveled. But hindsight doesn't fix anything. It just makes the guilt sharper. My family is gone. Not dead, but gone in every way that matters. We don't talk, we don't visit. Holidays are just dates on a calendar now, and all it took was one person with the right skills and the wrong intentions. They tore us apart without ever showing their face. And the worst part? I don't think any of us know how to put it back together. I'm not even sure we want to. Digital betrayal is brutal, but sometimes the knife comes from someone standing right next to you, like in this next story. I was 26 when this happened, and I'd been dating Kate for about a year and a half. Things were good. Not perfect, but good. We had our routines, our inside jokes, the kind of rhythm you fall into when you're comfortable with someone. So when she told me she was doing a girls' night at Olive Garden with her co-workers on a Friday evening, I didn't think twice about it. I was actually happy she was getting out more. She'd been working crazy hours lately and seemed stressed, so a night with friends sounded like exactly what she needed. Here's the thing though. That same Friday, my mum called me that afternoon and asked if I wanted to grab dinner. She'd been having a rough week and just wanted some company. I said sure, and she suggested Olive Garden because she had a coupon. I know, very on brand for mums. So I agreed and we met up around 7. We got seated, ordered our food, and I was halfway through my breadstick when I realized something. Kate said she was here tonight, at this exact Olive Garden, with her friends. I looked around the restaurant. It's not that big of a place. You can pretty much see every table from where we were sitting. No Kate. No group of women that looked like her coworker crew. I even got up to use the restroom just to do a lap and make sure I wasn't missing something. Nothing. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe they were running late. Maybe they went to a different location, even though this was the one closest to both our places. Maybe I misheard her. I texted her something casual, just a, "Hey, hope you're having fun" kind of message. She replied 20 minutes later with a selfie of her and two women I vaguely recognized from her office. They were holding drinks, smiling, the whole thing. The background looked like a restaurant, but it was blurry. Could have been anywhere. My mum noticed I was distracted and asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine, but honestly, I wasn't. Something felt wrong. Not in a "she's definitely cheating" kind of way, but in a "the math isn't mathing" kind of way. When I got home that night, Kate was already back. She seemed normal, tired but normal. I asked her how girls' night was, and she said it was great. They had pasta, split a bottle of wine, complained about work. Standard stuff. Then I said it, casually, like it was no big deal. I mentioned that I'd been at the same Olive Garden with my mum and didn't see her. Her face changed, not dramatically, but enough. She laughed it off and said I must have just missed them, that the place was packed and maybe we were in different sections. I nodded, but I didn't believe her. The restaurant wasn't that packed, and I'd walked through the whole place. The next day, I couldn't shake it. I know this sounds borderline paranoid, but I kept replaying the night in my head. The selfie she sent, the way she got defensive when I mentioned being there. The fact that I know every corner of that Olive Garden and didn't see her anywhere. I felt like I was losing my mind, but I also felt like I wasn't crazy. Here's where it gets a little uncomfortable. The manager of that Olive Garden is a guy named Dennis. We went to high school together, not close friends, but we're friendly. I've chatted with him a few times when I've been in there. So I drove over on my lunch break, caught him during a slow period, and asked him for a favor. I explained the situation, tried not to sound like a jealous boyfriend, and asked if he could check the cameras from Friday night just to confirm whether Kate and her friends were actually there. I said I just needed peace of mind. He hesitated, which I get, but eventually he said he'd take a look. He called me that evening. Kate was never there. He checked the footage from the entire night. No sign of her. No group of women matching the description I gave him. He even checked the parking lot cameras in case she came in and left quickly. Nothing. He sounded genuinely sorry when he told me, like he knew what this meant. I felt sick. Not angry yet, just sick. Because now I had confirmation that she'd lied to me. Not a small lie, not a white lie, but a deliberate, planned-out lie with a fake selfie and a whole story to back it up. I didn't know what to do with that information. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately. Another part of me wanted to dig deeper first, figure out where she actually was that night. But I didn't have to dig. I had the timestamps from the security footage. I had Dennis's word. I had everything I needed. So when Kate got home from work the next day, I asked her to sit down. I told her I knew she wasn't at Olive Garden on Friday. I showed her the screenshots Dennis had sent me, timestamps and all. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse her of cheating. I just asked her to tell me the truth. She tried to deny it at first, said maybe the cameras missed her, that it was a technical error, that Dennis must have checked the wrong night. I let her talk herself into a corner. Then I asked her about the selfie. Where was it taken? She went quiet. Her hands started shaking, and then she just broke. She wasn't cheating. That was the first thing she said, and I actually believed her. She was meeting with a bankruptcy lawyer. Turns out Kate had been hiding a massive amount of credit card debt. $40,000. Most of it racked up over the past 2 years from online shopping. Covering expenses she couldn't afford, trying to keep up appearances. She'd been juggling minimum payments, taking out new cards to pay off old ones, spiraling deeper and deeper. The meeting on Friday was with a lawyer to discuss her options. She'd been too ashamed to tell me. The selfie was old, from a different girl's night weeks earlier. She'd reused it to cover her tracks because she didn't want me asking questions. She thought if I knew about the debt, I'd leave her. She thought I'd see her as irresponsible, broken, unfixable. So she lied. And she kept lying. And she was planning to keep lying until she figured out how to fix it on her own. I didn't know what to say. Part of me was relieved she wasn't cheating, but another part of me was just devastated. Not because of the debt, honestly. $40,000 is a lot, and yeah, it's a problem, but it's a solvable problem. What gutted me was the lying, the fact that she looked me in the eye for months and hid this from me, the fact that she didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth, the fact that she thought I'd abandon her instead of help her. I told her that. I told her the lie hurt more than the debt ever could, because debt is just money. You can make a plan, pay it off, rebuild. But trust, that's harder to fix. She cried. I cried. It was a mess. We talked for hours that night. She showed me all the statements, all the bills, everything she'd been hiding. It was worse than I thought, but at least it was finally out in the open. We decided to work through it. I didn't want to throw away a year and a half over this, and I genuinely believe she was sorry. We set up a budget, talked to a financial advisor, started making a plan to tackle the debt together. It's been a few months now, and we're making progress. Slowly, but we're getting there. But here's the thing, the trust hasn't fully come back. I catch myself second-guessing her sometimes. When she says she's going somewhere, I wonder if she's telling me the truth. When she's on her phone, I wonder what she's hiding. I hate that I feel that way, and I'm working on it. But the damage is real. She knows it too. She's been bending over backwards to be transparent, to rebuild what she broke. I appreciate that. I really do. But I think about that night at Olive Garden a lot. How easy it would have been for her to just tell me the truth. How much pain we could have avoided if she'd just trusted me. And I wonder if we'll ever fully get back to where we were before. Or if this is just the new normal now. A relationship built on love, but shadowed by the memory of a lie that didn't have to happen. At least that secret came from shame, not malice, which is more than I can say for this next story, where one person's clout chasing cost someone everything. Emma and I had been best friends since high school. We did everything together, same classes, same friend group, same taste in games. So when we decided to start a Twitch channel together during college, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. We weren't trying to become famous or anything. We just wanted to hang out, play games, and maybe build a little community of people who enjoyed the same stuff we did. And honestly, it worked. We started small, like everyone does, maybe 5 or 6 viewers on a good night. Most of them friends from school who were just there to hype us up. But slowly, steadily, we grew. We found our rhythm. Emma was great at the high-energy commentary, and I handled most of the behind-the-scenes stuff, editing, scheduling, managing our Discord, designing our overlays. We complemented each other. Within a year, we had a couple hundred regular viewers. Not huge by any means, but it felt real. We had inside jokes with our chat. We had emotes people actually used. We were building something together, and it felt good. Then one day, I noticed something weird. Our viewer count had dropped. Not drastically, but enough to be noticeable. We went from averaging around 200 viewers to maybe 120, 130. I figured it was just a slow week. Algorithms are weird, people get busy, whatever. But then it kept happening. And I started noticing people in our Discord weren't as active anymore. Messages were slower. Some of our regulars weren't showing up to streams. I asked Emma if she'd noticed anything. She said no, told me not to worry about it, said numbers fluctuate all the time, and I believed her. Because why wouldn't I? She was my best friend. We were in this together, except we weren't. One of our mods sent me a DM late one night. Just a link. No explanation. I clicked it and it took me to a Twitch channel I'd never seen before. Except I had seen it, because it looked exactly like ours. Same color scheme, same layout, same style of overlays. And the person streaming? Emma. She'd started her own solo channel, and she was live at the exact same time we were supposed to stream together the next day. I sat there staring at the screen, trying to make sense of it. Maybe it was a side project. Maybe she just wanted to try streaming alone for fun. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I watched for a few minutes, and that's when I heard it. She made one of our inside jokes, one that we'd been using on our joint channel for months, something our community knew us for, and the chat went wild, spamming emotes, laughing, acting like they'd been there the whole time, because they had been. They were our viewers. I checked the Discord link in her channel description. It was our Discord, or at least it used to be. She'd copied the entire server, invited all our members to her new one, and just took them. She didn't ask. She didn't tell me. She just decided our community was hers now. I didn't sleep that night. I went through everything. Her follower list, her VODs, Her Discord. She'd been doing this for weeks, streaming at the same times as us, using the same jokes, the same aesthetics, everything we'd built together, and our people were going to her channel instead. She was siphoning off our audience and rebranding it as her own. The next morning, I confronted her. I didn't want to blow it up. I wanted to give her a chance to explain, to tell me this was some kind of misunderstanding. So I messaged her privately, sent her screenshots of her channel, asked her what was going on. Her response: business is business. That's it. No apology, no explanation. Just those 3 words, like she was some kind of entrepreneur making a power move, and I was supposed to respect the hustle. I asked her if she was seriously going to pretend like she didn't just steal our entire community, and she actually laughed it off, told me I was overreacting, said that if people wanted to watch her channel instead, that was their choice, and I couldn't control where viewers went. Technically true, but also completely missing the point. She'd used everything we built together: the branding, the jokes, the audience. She didn't start from scratch. She took what was ours and slapped her name on it. And when I called her out, she acted like I was being dramatic. That's when I decided I was done playing nice. I scheduled a stream, solo, didn't tell her, didn't warn her, just went live at our usual time and waited for people to show up. And they did. Not as many as before, but enough. I started the stream calm, casual, like nothing was wrong, thanked everyone for being there, and then I said, "So, I need to talk to you guys about something." I pulled up the screenshots, side-by-side comparisons of our channel and hers. Same overlays, same emotes, same jokes. I showed our Discord and her Discord, identical member lists. And then I showed the DMs, the ones where she admitted, in her own words, that she'd been planning to phase me out, that she thought she could do better on her own, that the channel was holding her back because she had to split decisions with me. The chat erupted. People were furious, not just at her but at themselves for not noticing sooner. Some had genuinely thought her solo channel was a joint decision. Others had assumed we'd split amicably. Nobody knew she'd just taken everything without asking. I didn't even have to say much. I just let the screenshots speak for themselves and asked one question. Who do you think really built this community? Within an hour, her channel started hemorrhaging followers. People were flooding her chat, asking her to explain. She tried to defend herself, said I was twisting things, that it wasn't as bad as it looked. But the screenshots didn't lie. Her own words didn't lie. She'd been caught and there was no walking it back. By the end of the week, she'd lost over half her followers. Her Discord went silent. People were leaving, unsubscribing, calling her out in her own chat until she had to put it in follower-only mode just to stop the spam. She tried to apologize publicly, posted some long statement about how she'd made a mistake and got caught up in trying to grow too fast. But nobody bought it. The damage was already done. You can't build a brand on betrayal and expect people to trust you. I rebuilt solo. It took time, but our real community stuck around. The people who actually cared about what we'd built together came back to my channel. I rebranded, changed the name, started fresh with a new aesthetic, and slowly, steadily, I grew again. Bigger than before, actually. Turns out people respect authenticity more than they respect someone trying to game the system. Emma? Last I checked, she's still streaming, to about 12 viewers, sometimes less. She never recovered. Every time she goes live, someone in chat brings it up, asks her about what happened. She usually ignores it, but you can tell it eats at her. She thought she was making a smart business move. She thought she could take what we built and make it hers. Turns out clout doesn't mean much when you betray the person who helped you build it. I haven't talked to her since. She tried reaching out a few times, sent me apology messages that felt more like damage control than actual remorse. I never responded. Some bridges, once burned, aren't worth rebuilding. She made her choice, and now she gets to live with it. The weirdest part, I don't even feel angry anymore. I did at first. I was furious, betrayed, hurt, but now I just feel nothing. She's not my problem anymore. She's just another cautionary tale about what happens when you prioritize numbers over people. And honestly, I'm better off without her. Betrayal for internet fame is pathetic, but what happens when the person you're trying to protect turns on you instead? That's next. My sister Jenna has always been the kind of person who falls hard and fast. When she's in, she's all in. So when she got engaged to Tyler after only 6 months of dating, I wasn't exactly shocked. Was I a little concerned? Sure. 6 months feels like barely enough time to know someone's favorite coffee order, let alone decide to marry them. But she was happy, she was glowing, and I wanted to be supportive, so I kept my concerns to myself and congratulated her like a good brother should. Tyler seemed fine at first. Nice enough guy, decent job, treated her well from what I could see. They'd come over for family dinners and he'd laugh at my dad's terrible jokes and help my mom clear the table. He seemed normal, maybe a little too charming, but I chalked that up to him trying to make a good impression. I figured if Jenna loved him, there had to be something there I wasn't seeing, so I let it go. Then one night, about 2 months after the engagement, I was out with some friends at a bar downtown. Nothing fancy, just a casual spot we'd hit up after work sometimes. I was waiting for my drink when I saw him. Tyler, sitting in a booth near the back, and he wasn't alone. He was with a woman I didn't recognize, and they were close, like really close. At first I thought maybe it was innocent, maybe a coworker or a friend, but then I watched him lean in and kiss her. Not a peck on the cheek, a full, intentional, this is definitely not platonic kiss. I felt my stomach drop. I stood there for a second, trying to process what I was seeing, trying to convince myself I was wrong. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it just looked like him. But no, it was definitely Tyler. Same haircut, same jacket Jenna had bought him for his birthday. There was no mistaking it. I didn't even think. I pulled out my phone and took a photo. My hands were shaking, but I got a clear shot of them together. Him leaning into her, her hand on his arm. And then I left. I didn't confront him. I didn't make a scene. I just walked out of that bar and sat in my car, staring at the photo, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do with this information. I knew I had to tell Jenna. There was no question about it. This was her fiancé. She was planning a wedding. She deserved to know. So I sent her the photo with a message that just said, "Saw Tyler tonight. Thought you should see this." I didn't editorialize. I didn't accuse him of anything. I just sent the evidence and waited. She called me 20 minutes later, and she was crying, but not the kind of crying I expected. She wasn't heartbroken. She was furious. At me. She accused me of trying to ruin her happiness. She said I'd always been jealous of her relationship, that I couldn't stand to see her moving forward with her life. She said the woman in the photo was Tyler's cousin, that they were close, that I was twisting an innocent moment into something it wasn't. I tried to push back. I told her cousins don't kiss like that this wasn't normal, that she needed to talk to him and get the truth. But she wasn't hearing it. She just kept yelling, kept defending him, kept making excuses. And then she said the thing that really gutted me. She told me I wasn't invited to the wedding anymore. She said if I couldn't support her relationship, I didn't deserve to be there. And then she hung up. Just like that. I tried calling back. I tried texting. I sent her the photo again with more context, explaining exactly what I saw, where I saw it, how there was no way it was innocent. But she'd already blocked me. My messages turned green. My calls went straight to voicemail. She'd shut me out completely. The next few months were brutal. I told my parents what happened, hoping they'd talk some sense into her. But Jenna had already gotten to them first. She spun the story her way, painted me as the jealous, bitter brother who couldn't handle her happiness. My parents tried to stay neutral, but I could tell they believed her version more than mine. Or maybe they just didn't want to cause more drama. Either way, I was on my own. Her wedding happened without me. I saw the photos on social media because, of course, she didn't block me everywhere. Just the places where I could actually reach her. She looked beautiful. Tyler looked smug. And I felt like I was watching a train wreck in slow motion, knowing exactly how it was going to end, but completely powerless to stop it. Then came the breaking point. 3 months after the wedding, I got a call from Jenna. It was late past midnight, and when I saw her name on my screen, I almost didn't answer. But something told me to pick up, and when I did, she was sobbing. Not angry crying like before. Real, broken, gut-wrenching sobs. Tyler had been arrested. Apparently, he'd been caught on a neighbor's Ring camera, breaking into his ex-girlfriend's apartment. Not just walking up to the door, breaking in, forcing the lock, going inside, rummaging through her things. The ex had footage of the whole thing and had filed a police report. When the cops showed up at Jenna's house to arrest him, she had no idea what was happening. She thought there'd been some kind of mistake, but there wasn't. Tyler had a whole history she didn't know about. Restraining orders, harassment charges, a pattern of behavior that made it very clear the woman in the bar that night wasn't his cousin. Jenna apologized. She cried and said she was sorry, that she should have listened to me, that she'd been so blinded by love she couldn't see what was right in front of her. She begged me to forgive her, said she needed her brother back, that she didn't know who else to turn to, and I forgave her, because she's my sister, because I love her, because holding a grudge wasn't going to undo the damage that had already been done. But here's the thing, forgiveness doesn't erase the hurt. It doesn't rewind time and fix the months we lost. It doesn't change the fact that when it came down to it, she chose him over me. She chose to believe a man she'd known for 6 months over the brother who'd been there her entire life. And that still stings. It probably always will. We're rebuilding our relationship now, slowly. She's filing for an annulment, going to therapy, trying to piece her life back together. And I'm there for her because that's what family does. But I'd be lying if I said things are the same. There's a crack now, a fracture in the foundation, and I don't know if it'll ever fully heal. The worst part is, I was right. I saw the truth, I tried to warn her, and I lost her anyway. Because sometimes protecting someone means losing them, even when you're right. Sometimes people need to learn the hard way, and all you can do is wait on the other side, hoping they make it back to you in one piece. I don't regret sending her that photo. I don't regret trying to protect her, but I do regret that it cost me months of my relationship with my sister. I regret that she had to go through all of that pain to finally see what I saw from the beginning. And I regret that no matter how much we rebuild, there's always going to be a part of me that remembers the night she chose him over me. Trust, once broken, doesn't just snap back into place. You can glue it back together, sure, but the cracks are still there, and every time you look at it, you see exactly where it broke. Family loyalty can blind you, just like it blinded this next person, until a hidden phone shattered every illusion. I was 17 when I found the phone, just looking for a charger in my mum's car because mine had died and I needed to text my friend about picking me up from practice. I checked the center console first, then the glove box, and finally reached under the passenger seat. My hand brushed against something solid. I pulled it out expecting maybe an old water bottle or some random trash. Instead, it was an iPhone, an older model but not ancient, still functional. My first thought was that someone had left it in her car. Maybe a coworker she'd given a ride to, or one of my younger siblings' friends. I was about to just leave it there when the screen lit up with a notification. Then another one. Then 3 more in rapid succession, all from someone named Jay. The preview text said, "Missing you today, and can't wait to see you this weekend." I stared at the screen, confused. My mum didn't have a friend named Jay that I knew of, at least not one she talked about. Here's where I made the choice that changed everything. I knew my mum's passcode. She'd been using the same one for years. Our dog's birthday. She'd never changed it, and we all knew it because she'd ask us to check her messages or look something up on her phone when she was driving. So I typed it in. The phone unlocked. The Messages app was already open. I scrolled up through the conversation with Jay, and my stomach started to twist. These weren't normal friend messages. These were love messages. I miss falling asleep next to you. Last night was perfect. I can't keep doing this, but I can't imagine my life without you. I kept scrolling. The messages went back years, not months, years. I checked the Photos app, and that's when everything really fell apart. There were pictures of my mom with a man I'd never seen before, Jonathan, based on the contact name. They were on a beach together, at a restaurant, in what looked like a hotel room. Some of the photos had dates attached. I recognized those dates. Those were the weekends my mum said she was going on book club retreats, the girls' trips she took twice a year, the times she said she needed to get away and recharge. She wasn't with her book club, she was with him. I sat in that car for over an hour just reading, just scrolling, just trying to process what I was seeing. There were messages about leaving my dad, about how she wanted to start over with Jonathan but couldn't because of us kids, how she was staying in a loveless marriage for our sake, but how much it was killing her inside. She called my dad her roommate. She said she hadn't loved him in over a decade. I felt like I was going to throw up. When I finally went back inside, my mum was in the kitchen making dinner. She asked me if I'd found a charger, and I just stood there holding the phone. She looked at it, and her face went completely white. She didn't ask me where I found it. She didn't try to grab it from me. She just stood there, frozen, waiting for me to say something. I asked her who Jonathan was. She opened her mouth, closed it, and then just said, I can explain. But she didn't explain. Not really. She told me to sit down. She said it wasn't what it looked like, and then immediately contradicted herself by admitting that yes, it was exactly what it looked like. She'd been seeing Jonathan for 11 years. They met at a work conference. It started as an emotional affair and became physical within 6 months. She'd tried to end it multiple times, but she kept going back. She said she loved him. She actually said that to me, that she loved him. I asked her about Dad. She sighed like I was asking her to explain something painfully obvious. She said she and my dad had fallen out of love years ago, that they were only still together because divorcing would have been too disruptive for me and my siblings, that she'd sacrificed her happiness to keep the family intact. She genuinely seemed to think she deserved credit for that. Oh, so we're doing that now? Playing the martyr while maintaining a secret relationship for over a decade? I didn't know what to do with the information. Part of me wanted to pretend I'd never found the phone. Put it back under the seat and forget this conversation ever happened. But I couldn't, because my dad deserved to know. He was living in a marriage he thought was real, and it hadn't been real in over 10 years. So I told her she needed to tell him. She begged me not to. She said it would destroy him, destroy the family, destroy everything we'd built. I told her she'd already destroyed it. She just hadn't let anyone else see the damage yet. She didn't tell him. 3 days went by, and she acted like everything was normal. Like we hadn't had that conversation. Like I wasn't walking around with this massive secret that was eating me alive. So I made another choice. I told my dad myself. I showed him the phone. I showed him the messages, the photos, everything. I watched his face as he read through years of his wife telling another man she loved him. He didn't cry. He didn't yell. He just went very, very quiet. Then he asked me to leave the room. I heard them fighting for hours that night. Not screaming, just this awful, cold kind of fighting where every word felt like a knife. My dad filed for divorce 2 weeks later. My mum didn't contest it. She moved out within a month, and last I heard, she's living with Jonathan now. They're finally together out in the open. I guess she got what she wanted, but that wasn't even the worst part. My siblings blame me. My older brother said I should have stayed out of it, that it wasn't my business. My younger sister won't talk to me at all. She thinks I broke up the family. She thinks if I'd just kept my mouth shut, we'd all still be together. She doesn't understand that we were never together. Not really. We were just living in a performance of a family while Mom lived a double life. My dad's a mess. He's trying to hold it together. But I see the way he looks at old photos now. The way he second guesses every memory, wondering what was real and what was just her playing a role. I did that to him. I mean, my mom did that to him, but I'm the one who forced him to see it. Some days I wonder if I should have just left the phone under the seat. My mom tried to explain herself to me a few times. She said the affair didn't mean she didn't love us, that her relationship with Jonathan was separate from her role as a mother, that she stayed as long as she did because she wanted to protect us from exactly this kind of pain. But here's the thing, she didn't protect us. She just delayed the inevitable and made it worse, because now we're not just dealing with a divorce. We're dealing with years of lies, years of fake smiles and fake trips, and a fake marriage. I asked her once why she didn't just leave earlier, before I was old enough to remember, before my siblings came along. She said she kept thinking she could make it work, that maybe she'd fall back in love with my dad, or that the thing with Jonathan would fizzle out. But it didn't. And instead of making a hard choice, she just let it drag on for over a decade. I don't talk to her much anymore. She texts me on birthdays and holidays, but I rarely respond. My siblings think I'm being unfair, that I'm punishing her for being human. But I'm not punishing her for having feelings. I'm punishing her for lying. For building our entire family on a foundation that didn't exist. For making me the one who had to tear it all down. My dad's doing better now, slowly. He started therapy, which I'm glad about. He's trying to rebuild his life, figure out who he is outside of a marriage that was apparently over before I was even born. I'm proud of him for that. But I also see the way this broke something in him, the way he doesn't trust as easily anymore, the way he assumes people are hiding things from him. I'm in therapy too, trying to work through the guilt, the anger, all of it. My therapist keeps telling me that I'm not responsible for my mum's choices, that finding the phone didn't cause the affair, that telling my dad didn't break up the family. My mum did all of that long before I found that iPhone under the passenger seat. Logically, I know she's right, but emotionally, I still feel like I'm the one who pulled the pin on the grenade. My family is shattered now. We don't do holidays together anymore. My siblings are split between houses, loyalties, versions of the truth. And my mum is living her authentic life with Jonathan, free from the lies she maintained for over a decade. I guess in her mind, this is a happy ending. For the rest of us, it just feels like wreckage. Secrets destroy families, but sometimes they destroy careers too. Just ask this next person. Mark had it out for me from day one. Well, not exactly day one, more like day 37, which was when I politely declined his invitation to a mentorship dinner that had absolutely nothing to do with mentorship and everything to do with the way he looked at me when he asked. I kept it professional, said I appreciated the offer but preferred to keep work relationships strictly professional. He smiled, said no problem, and I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Within 2 weeks, everything changed. Suddenly, my work wasn't good enough. Reports I'd been submitting for months with zero issues were now riddled with problems, according to him. He started excluding me from meetings I'd always been part of, then criticizing me for not being up to speed on projects I wasn't invited to discuss. He'd CC half the office on emails pointing out minor mistakes, things he'd let slide for everyone else. It was textbook retaliation, but proving it, that was another story. I went to HR 3 times, 3 separate meetings where I laid out the timeline, explained the shift in his behavior, connected the dots between my rejection and his sudden campaign against me. Each time they nodded sympathetically, took notes, and did absolutely nothing. Mark was a senior director. I was mid-level. The power dynamic made it clear whose side they were going to take, even if they'd never say it out loud. So I started documenting everything. Every email, every interaction, every time he undermined me in a meeting or assigned me work outside my job description just to set me up for failure. I kept a detailed log with dates, times, witnesses. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I knew I needed evidence. Because at the rate things were going, I was going to get fired, and I wanted proof that it was unjust. Turns out I didn't have to wait long. I came into the office early one Tuesday, around 6:30 in the morning. I liked getting there before everyone else when it was quiet and I could actually focus. I grabbed coffee, headed to my desk, and noticed the conference room light was on. That was weird. Facilities usually locked it overnight. I walked over to turn it off and saw Mark's laptop sitting open on the table. He must have been there late the night before and forgotten it. I should have just closed the door and walked away. I know that. But something made me stop. The screen was still on, his email pulled up, and my name was right there in the subject line of one of the messages. I stepped closer. The email was to someone in HR, outlining his plan to terminate me by the end of the month. Documented performance issues, he called them. A pattern of underperformance and attitude problems. All lies, but there it was in writing. I felt my hands start shaking. This was it. He was actually going to fire me, and HR was helping him do it. But then I saw another email thread below it. This one wasn't about me. It was between Mark and Laura, one of the project leads in our department. And it wasn't a work email. It was personal, very personal. Messages detailing their affair, talking about hotel meetups, complaints about their spouses, plans to get Laura promoted into a role she wasn't remotely qualified for so they could work more closely together. The timestamps went back months. This wasn't a new thing. This was a full-blown relationship, and Mark was using his position to give Laura advantages the rest of us would never get. I didn't think, I just acted. I pulled out my phone, airdropped the entire email thread to myself, and walked out of that conference room like nothing happened. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I was going to pass out, but I made it back to my desk, forwarded the emails to my personal account, and sat there trying to process what I'd just done. The next team meeting was 2 days later. Mark had called it last minute, said he had important announcements to make. I knew what was coming. This was going to be where he told everyone I was being let go, spun it as a mutual decision or a performance issue, made it sound clean and professional. I'd seen him do it to other people before. I brought my laptop. He started the meeting with the usual pleasantries, talked about upcoming projects, gave updates on company goals. Then he got to it. He said that due to ongoing performance concerns, they'd made the difficult decision to part ways with me, effective immediately. He thanked me for my contributions, wished me well, and said HR would be in touch about the transition process. A few people looked uncomfortable. Most just stared at their laptops. Nobody said anything. That's when I stood up. I asked if I could address the team before I left, just to say goodbye. Mark looked annoyed but agreed, probably thinking it would make him look magnanimous. I walked to the front of the room, connected my laptop to the projector, and opened my email. And then I hit forward. The email thread popped up on the screen behind me. Mark and Laura's affair, laid out in explicit detail, their plans to manipulate promotions, complaints about their spouses, everything. I didn't say a word. I just let it sit there while the room went completely silent. Mark's face went white, then red. Then he started yelling, demanding I turn it off, threatening legal action, calling for security. But nobody moved. Everyone was just staring at the screen, reading message after message, watching his entire facade crumble in real time. Laura tried to leave. Someone blocked the door, not physically, just stood there and asked if she wanted to explain. She didn't. She just stood frozen, looking like she was about to cry. HR was in that meeting. They saw everything. And for the first time since I'd started complaining about Mark, they actually did something. An investigation was launched that afternoon. Mark was suspended immediately. Laura was put on leave pending review. Within 3 days, they'd interviewed half the office, pulled email records, found even more evidence of favoritism and misconduct. By the end of the week, both of them were gone. Terminated for violating company policy, misuse of authority, and about 6 other things I didn't even know were violations. I kept my job. HR apologized, said they should have taken my complaints more seriously, offered me a settlement to avoid any potential legal action on my end. I took it, not because I wanted to let them off the hook, but because I was exhausted and I just wanted to move on. The fallout was messy. Laura's husband found out, filed for divorce. Mark's wife did the same. The office gossip mill ran wild for weeks, everyone picking apart every interaction they'd ever had with either of them, looking for signs they'd missed. I stayed out of it as much as I could. I'd done what I needed to do. The rest wasn't my problem. People ask me if I feel bad about it, if I regret exposing them that way, in front of everyone, without warning. Honestly, no. Mark spent months trying to destroy my career because I wouldn't sleep with him. He was using his position to manipulate promotions and gaslight employees. He was planning to fire me for refusing his advances. He built that house of cards himself. I just gave it a nudge. Laura made her own choices too. She knew he was married. She knew the promotions were unearned. She could have said no at any point. She didn't. I'm still at the company, different department now, better boss, actually doing work I care about. Mark and Laura are gone, their reputations trashed, their marriage is over. And me, I'm doing just fine, because sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. It's just about making sure the truth comes out at exactly the right time. Workplace justice feels sweet, but family justice, that's a whole different level of messy. My cousin Rachel and I had always been close growing up. We weren't best friends or anything, but we got along. Same family gatherings, same holiday traditions, the usual cousin stuff. So when she announced at a family dinner that she'd gotten into UCLA on a full scholarship, I was genuinely happy for her. Everyone was. My aunt was crying, my uncle was beaming, and the whole family erupted into congratulations. It was a huge deal. UCLA isn't easy to get into, and a full ride, that's something worth celebrating. The family went all out. They threw her this massive graduation party, invited everyone, decorated the whole backyard with blue and gold balloons. People gave her money for textbooks, dorm supplies, all the things you need when you're heading off to college. I remember handing her an envelope with a couple $100 I'd saved up from my part-time job, telling her to buy herself something nice. She hugged me, thanked me, told me how excited she was to finally start this new chapter. I believed every word. I was attending a community college nearby at the time, nothing fancy, just trying to get my general education out of the way before transferring somewhere. It was cheaper, and honestly, I wasn't in a rush, but I'd go to the UCLA campus sometimes to study at the library, or grab food with friends who went there. It's a beautiful campus, and I liked the energy. So one afternoon, a few weeks into the full semester, I was there anyway, and thought it'd be fun to surprise Rachel. Maybe grab coffee, see her dorm, catch up. I looked up her dorm building online. The housing portal was public for students, so I figured I'd just find her room number and swing by. Except she wasn't listed. I thought maybe I'd typed her name wrong, so I tried again. Still nothing. Then I checked the student directory. Not there either. I felt this weird knot forming in my stomach. Maybe it was a system glitch. Maybe her information hadn't been uploaded yet. But something felt off. So I texted her, casual, just asking if she wanted to meet up since I was on campus. She didn't respond for hours, and when she finally did, it was just a short message saying she was busy with classes and couldn't hang out. I let it go for a few days, but the doubt was eating at me, so I decided to ask her directly. I drove to her apartment, the one she was supposedly living in near campus, and knocked on the door. When she answered, she looked surprised to see me. Not happy, surprised, anxious, surprised. I asked her straight up if everything was okay, if she was actually enrolled at UCLA. And that's when she broke. She wasn't going to UCLA. She'd never been accepted. She'd applied, sure, but the rejection letter came months before graduation. She was too ashamed to tell anyone, too scared of disappointing the family. So she made up the scholarship story, let everyone throw her a party, took their money, and had been working retail at a mall across town while pretending to go to classes. Every time someone asked about school, she'd make something up. Fake stories about professors, roommates, campus life. She'd even bought UCLA merch to make it more convincing. She showed me her work uniform still in her bag and just started crying. She begged me not to tell anyone, said she was trying to save up to actually enroll next year, that she just needed more time to figure things out. I felt terrible for her. I really did. And I promised I'd keep it quiet. It wasn't my place to blow up her life. If she wanted to come clean, that was her choice. So I kept my mouth shut, but that wasn't even the worst part. Thanksgiving rolled around a few months later. The whole family gathered at my aunt's house like we do every year. Big meal, lots of people, the usual chaos. Rachel was there playing the part perfectly, talking about her classes, complaining about finals coming up, the whole performance. And everyone was eating it up. My aunt kept gushing about how proud she was, how Rachel was the first person in the family to go to a school like UCLA. Then my aunt turned to me. She asked how Rachel was really doing at school, since we were both in the area and I'd probably seen her around campus. It was an innocent question. She just wanted to hear it from someone else, maybe get some insight Rachel wouldn't share herself. I froze. I looked at Rachel. She was staring at me, eyes wide, silently pleading, and I had a choice to make. I could lie. I could back up her story, say she was doing great, keep the charade going, or I could tell the truth and watch everything fall apart. I couldn't lie. I just couldn't. But I also didn't want to be the one to out her. So I said the only thing I could think of. You should ask her yourself. The room went quiet. My aunt looked confused. My uncle's smile faded. Rachel's face went pale, and then my aunt asked Rachel directly, "Honey, is everything okay at school?" Rachel tried to hold it together. She said everything was fine, that I was just being weird. But my aunt pressed. She asked why I would say something like that if nothing was wrong. And that's when Rachel's entire story started to unravel. She didn't confess right away. She tried to deflect, tried to change the subject, but my aunt wasn't letting it go. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of awkward silence and pointed questions, Rachel broke down and admitted the truth. She wasn't going to UCLA. She'd never been enrolled. The scholarship was fake. Everything was a lie. The fallout was immediate. My aunt started crying. My uncle looked like he'd been punched in the gut. Other family members started asking questions, demanding explanations. Rachel was sobbing, apologizing, trying to explain why she did it. And me? I just sat there, feeling like I'd just detonated a bomb in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner. And here's where it gets absurd. The family turned on me. Not Rachel. Me. My aunt accused me of humiliating her daughter in front of everyone. My uncle said I should have kept my mouth shut, that it wasn't my business to expose her. Other relatives chimed in, saying I was cruel, that I should have been more sensitive, that I'd ruined Thanksgiving. Rachel got pity. Poor Rachel. She was just scared. She was just trying to make everyone proud. She made a mistake. I got blame. I was the villain who couldn't keep a secret, the one who outed her when she was vulnerable. I tried to defend myself. I pointed out that I didn't actually tell anyone the truth, that I'd kept her secret for months, that I only said what I said because I was put on the spot and didn't want to lie. But it didn't matter. The narrative was set. I was the bad guy. Rachel didn't defend me. She didn't tell anyone that I'd promised to keep quiet, that I'd tried to protect her. She just let them blame me, and honestly, that hurt more than anything else. Things went from bad to unhinged. In the weeks after Thanksgiving, family members started picking sides. Some believed I did the right thing by not lying. Others thought I should have covered for her no matter what. Group chats I was in went silent. Invitations to family events stopped coming. My mum tried to smooth things over, but even she admitted the family was divided. Rachel eventually started community college, the same one I was attending. I'd see her on campus sometimes, and we'd awkwardly avoid eye contact. She never apologized to me, never acknowledged that I'd kept her secret until I was literally cornered into a situation where lying would have made me complicit. The family did eventually forgive her. They threw her another party when she actually enrolled. Smaller this time, but still. She got a second chance, a redemption arc. And me, I'm still the cousin who ruined Thanksgiving, the one who couldn't keep his mouth shut. Truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it just makes you the villain in someone else's story. Being the truth teller can cost you everything, but sometimes fighting back is the only option, like in this next story. I was a junior in high school when this happened, and I'd been part of the same friend group since freshman year. There were 5 of us, me, Connor, Blake, Ryan, and Josh. We did everything together. Lunch, weekends, group projects, the whole thing. I trusted these guys. I thought we were solid. Then one Monday morning, I got called into the principal's office. I had no idea why. I wasn't in trouble. I didn't do anything. But when I walked in, Principal Davison had this look on his face that told me something serious was going down. He asked me to sit, and then he asked me point blank if I had anything to do with vandalizing the gym over the weekend. I was confused. I told him no. I had no idea what he was talking about. He pulled out his phone and showed me photos. Someone had spray-painted slurs all over the gym walls. Horrible, racist, hateful stuff that made my stomach turn just looking at it. I told him I didn't do it, that I wasn't even at school over the weekend. He said he had multiple witnesses who claimed they saw me there Saturday night. Multiple witnesses. I asked who, and he wouldn't say, but I already knew. It had to be my friends. They were the only ones who'd say something like that. He told me I was being suspended pending investigation. 2 weeks, starting immediately. My parents were being called. The police might get involved depending on how the investigation went. And the worst part? This was junior year. College applications were right around the corner. A suspension for vandalism, especially for something this bad, could destroy everything I'd been working toward. I left that office feeling like the ground had been ripped out from under me. I didn't do it. I knew I didn't do it. But someone had, and someone had blamed me for it. I went home, told my parents what happened, and they were furious. Not at me, thankfully. They believed me. But they were scared. Scared this would ruin my future. Scared the school wouldn't figure out the truth in time. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept running through the weekend in my head, trying to figure out who would do this and why they'd pin it on me. And then my phone buzzed. Group chat notification. I almost didn't check it, but something told me to look. It was Connor. He'd sent a message that just said, "Bro, that was too easy." Then Blake replied with a bunch of laughing emojis. Then Ryan chimed in with, "He actually got suspended, LMAO." And Josh sent a gif of someone clapping. I scrolled up, and that's when I saw everything. They'd planned it, the whole thing. Saturday night, they broke into the school, spray-painted the gym, and then told the principal they saw me do it. They coordinated their stories. They made sure they all said the same thing so it would look credible. And they were laughing about it, celebrating, congratulating each other on pulling it off. I sat there staring at my phone, reading through message after message of them joking about how I was so screwed and how funny it was going to be when I got expelled. They thought it was hilarious. They thought ruining my life was a prank. I didn't reply. I didn't call them out. I just took screenshots. Every single message. The planning, the execution, the bragging, all of it. And then I started thinking about what to do next. My first instinct was to go to the principal. Show him the screenshots, clear my name, let the school handle it. But something about that felt too easy, too clean. These guys had just tried to destroy my future for a laugh, and I wanted them to understand exactly what that felt like. So I went nuclear. I forwarded the entire group chat thread to every single one of their parents, not just a couple of messages. The whole thing. I included a calm, carefully written explanation of what had happened. I told them I'd been suspended for something I didn't do, that their sons had framed me, and that the evidence was in the messages below. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't add drama. I just stated the facts and let the screenshots speak for themselves. Within an hour, my phone started blowing up. Angry messages from Connor, Blake, Ryan, and Josh. They were furious, panicking, asking me why I'd do that, begging me to tell their parents it was a joke, that I'd misunderstood. I didn't respond to any of them. I just muted the group chat and waited. By the next morning, all four of them had been called into the principal's office. Their parents brought the screenshots. The school launched a new investigation, and this time they had actual evidence. Security footage from that Saturday night showed all four of them near the gym. Their phones had location data that put them at the school. It all lined up perfectly. They were suspended, not for 2 weeks, for the rest of the semester. They were required to pay for the repairs to the gym, which ran into the thousands of dollars. They had to issue formal written apologies to me, to the school, and to the community. And the principal made it clear that this would be on their permanent records. But that wasn't even the worst part. Two of them, Connor and Blake, had already been accepted to colleges. Early decision. Their acceptances were rescinded once the schools found out about the suspension and the reason behind it. Their dream schools just evaporated because they thought it'd be funny to frame me for a hate crime. Their parents reached out to me individually. Some of them apologized. Some of them thanked me for bringing it to their attention. Connor's mom cried on the phone with my mom, saying she had no idea her son was capable of something like that. I felt bad for the parents, honestly. They didn't deserve this, but their kids did. The group hasn't spoken to me since, not that I care. I see them in the hallways sometimes, and they won't even make eye contact. Ryan tried to approach me once, months later, and started with some half-baked apology about how things got out of hand. I cut him off and told him I didn't want to hear it. An apology doesn't undo what they tried to do. It doesn't give Connor and Blake their college acceptances back. And it definitely doesn't rebuild trust that was shattered the second they decided my future was worth sacrificing for a laugh. I finished junior year with a clean record. The suspension was expunged once the investigation concluded. My college applications went out on time, and I got into my top choice. I'm doing fine. Better than fine, actually. Meanwhile, Connor's working at a grocery store, trying to figure out his next move since his college plans fell through. Blake's at community college, which isn't a bad thing, but it's not where he thought he'd be. Ryan and Josh got into schools, but smaller ones than they'd originally aimed for. Their records followed them. Turns out actions have consequences. Who knew? I learned a lot from that whole experience. I learned that loyalty isn't something you just assume exists because you've known people for a while. It's something that has to be earned, proven, maintained. I learned that some people will turn on you the second it's convenient or funny or beneficial to them. And I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation or drama. It's just giving people enough rope to hang themselves and making sure the right people see it happen. Do I regret what I did? Not even a little. They made a choice. They chose to frame me, to lie, to try to ruin my future. I just made sure the people who needed to know found out. If that makes me the bad guy in their story, I can live with that. Because in my story, I'm the one who stood up for himself when no one else would. I have new friends now, real ones, people who've proven they have my back, not just when it's easy, but when it actually matters. And honestly, I'm better off. That whole situation was awful while it was happening, but it taught me who I could trust and who I couldn't. And that's a lesson worth learning, even if it came the hard way. Friendship betrayals cut deep, but family betrayals, they cut to the bone, like what happened next. Amy never liked me. I'm not saying that to be dramatic or to play the victim. It's just a fact. From the moment my brother introduced her to the family, I could feel the tension. She was polite enough in front of everyone, but there was always this edge to her interactions with me. Little comments that seemed harmless on the surface, but had a bite underneath. I tried to brush it off, figured maybe she was just protective of my brother, or adjusting to the family dynamic. I gave her the benefit of the doubt for years. Then my dad passed away, and everything changed. My father didn't leave a complicated estate. He had a will, everything was outlined clearly, and my brother and I were supposed to split things fairly evenly. But there was one piece of property, a cabin up north that had been in our family for decades, that both of us had memories attached to. Dad's will said we could decide between ourselves what to do with it. Sell it and split the profit, or one of us could buy the other out. Simple enough. My brother wanted to keep it. I understood that, but I also needed the money. I'd just gone through a rough financial patch, medical bills from a surgery that insurance barely covered, and I was trying to get back on my feet. I suggested he buy me out at fair market value. He countered with a lower offer, something that felt more like a pity payment than an actual buyout. We went back and forth for a few weeks, and yeah, it got tense, but it was never nasty. It was just two people trying to figure out a fair solution to a complicated emotional situation. Amy, though, saw it differently. She started making comments to other family members, little things at first, about how I was being greedy, how I was trying to take advantage of my brother during a difficult time. I heard about it through my aunt, who mentioned it casually, thinking I already knew. I confronted my brother and he brushed it off, said Amy was just venting and didn't mean anything by it. I let it go. I shouldn't have. Then the rumors started. Family members I hadn't spoken to in months were calling me, asking if it was true that I'd taken money from Dad's accounts before he died, asking if I'd falsified documents to get a bigger share of the estate, asking if I'd manipulated my brother into giving me more than I deserved. I was blindsided. None of it was true, not a single word, but people were believing it. I tried to trace it back to the source, and every road led to Amy. She'd been calling family members, sending messages, painting me as this manipulative, greedy person who was taking advantage of my grieving brother. She told people I'd forged signatures on estate documents. She said I'd pressured Dad into changing his will when he was sick. She even claimed I'd stolen jewelry that was supposed to go to her. All lies, every single one. My reputation in the family tanked. People stopped inviting me to gatherings. Conversations would go quiet when I walked into a room. My brother started pulling away, and I could tell Amy was in his ear, reinforcing every lie she'd told. I felt completely helpless. How do you defend yourself against accusations that aren't even based in reality? How do you prove you didn't do something when the burden of proof somehow falls on you? I tried talking to my brother directly. I showed him bank statements, the will, everything that proved I hadn't done any of the things Amy was accusing me of. He said he believed me, but his actions told a different story. He stopped returning my calls, he cancelled plans, he pulled away, and I knew it was because of her. Then my cousin Jenna called me. She said she had something I needed to hear. She sounded uncomfortable, like she wasn't sure if she should be getting involved, but she sent me a voice note anyway. It was from Amy, sent to Jenna weeks earlier, during one of their conversations. I listened to it and my hands started shaking. Amy was laughing, actually laughing. She was talking about how easy it was to turn everyone against me, how people just believed whatever she said because they trusted her more than they trusted me. She admitted she'd made it all up. Every accusation, every rumor, every lie. She said she did it because she wanted my brother to cut me off financially, that she didn't want me getting a cent from the estate because she saw it as money that should go to their future, not mine. She even joked about how gullible some family members were, how they ate up every story she fed them without questioning it. The voice note was over 3 minutes long, 3 minutes of her gleefully admitting to destroying my reputation for her own financial gain. I saved it immediately, backed it up in 3 different places, and then I waited. The next family dinner was 2 weeks later, a big gathering at my aunt's house, the kind where everyone shows up and pretends everything is fine even when it's not. I almost didn't go, but Jenna convinced me I should. She didn't tell me why, just said I needed to be there. So I went. Amy was there, of course, sitting next to my brother, playing the role of the concerned wife, the supportive partner. She barely looked at me when I walked in. My brother gave me a stiff nod, the kind of acknowledgement you give to someone you're obligated to be polite to, but don't actually want to talk to. Dinner was awkward. People made small talk, avoided eye contact with me, the usual. Then, during dessert, my aunt asked how the estate situation was going. It was an innocent question, but I saw Amy's face light up. She loved this. She loved watching me squirm. So I pulled out my phone. I connected it to the Bluetooth speaker my aunt had sitting on the counter, the one she used to play music during gatherings, and I hit play. Amy's voice filled the room, laughing, admitting everything, talking about how she'd lied, how she'd manipulated people, how easy it was to turn the family against me. 3 minutes of her own words, condemning her in front of everyone she'd lied to. The room went completely silent. People stopped eating, stopped talking, just sat there staring at the speaker, listening. My brother's face went pale. Amy tried to grab my phone, tried to stop it, but my cousin blocked her, told her to sit down and let it play. When it finished, nobody said anything for what felt like an eternity. Then my aunt spoke up, her voice shaking. She asked Amy if it was true. Amy tried to laugh it off, said it was a joke, that I'd taken it out of context. But there was no context that made it okay. There was no explanation that justified what she'd said. My brother looked like he'd been punched in the gut. He didn't say anything to her. He just stood up and walked out. She followed him, trying to explain, trying to backtrack, but he wasn't having it. I heard them arguing outside, her voice getting higher and more desperate, his staying low and cold. The rest of the family turned to me, apologized, said they should have questioned the accusations, should have asked for proof, should have trusted me. It felt hollow, but I accepted it. What else was I going to do? My brother called me a few days later. He apologized, said he'd been blind, that he'd let Amy manipulate him, that he was sorry for doubting me. He told me they were separating, that he couldn't stay with someone who deliberately tried to destroy his relationship with his family. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt vindicated. Another part just felt sad for him. We're rebuilding our relationship now, slowly. It's not easy, and there's still a lot of hurt on both sides, but we're trying. Amy's gone, moved out, filed for separation, the whole thing. Last I heard, she was telling people I'd manipulated the situation, that the voice note was edited or faked. Nobody's listening. Because here's the thing about lies. Eventually, they catch up with you. Amy thought she was clever, thought she could control the narrative forever. But she got comfortable. She got careless, and her own words became the evidence that destroyed her. I didn't ruin Amy. She ruined herself. I just made sure everyone else heard the truth. Lies have a way of catching up with liars, especially when you walk in on the truth yourself. I'd been with Mia for about 2 years when things started feeling off. Nothing dramatic at first, just small things. She'd take longer to respond to texts. She'd have these late nights that she'd explain away with work or friends or errands. Her explanations always made sense in the moment, but when I looked at the pattern over weeks, something didn't add up. I didn't want to be that person, the paranoid partner who jumps to conclusions, but the feeling wouldn't go away. I tried talking to her about it, asked if everything was okay, if we were okay. She'd reassure me, tell me I was overthinking, that work had just been stressful and she needed some space to decompress. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the distance kept growing, and the excuses kept coming. So one evening, I decided to surprise her. Show up at her apartment unannounced, maybe with takeout from her favorite place, try to reconnect. I had a spare key she'd given me months ago for emergencies. I figured this counted. I wanted to prove to myself that I was wrong, that there was nothing to worry about, that my gut was just playing tricks on me. I let myself in quietly, planning to call out and surprise her in a fun way. But before I could say anything, I heard voices coming from her bedroom. My stomach dropped. This was it, the moment I'd been dreading. I walked toward the bedroom, my heart pounding, already preparing myself for what I was about to see. I opened the door, and what I found wasn't what I expected at all. It wasn't Mia. It was Ryan, my best friend since we were kids, in her bed, with someone I'd never seen before. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what I was seeing. Ryan's face went white. The person next to him scrambled to cover themselves, and I just stood there, confused, angry, and completely blindsided. Ryan started stammering, trying to explain, but I cut him off. I asked him what the hell he was doing in Mia's apartment. Where was Mia? Why was he here? The other person grabbed their clothes and bolted past me, out the door, gone before I could even register what was happening. Ryan sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands, and told me everything. Mia wasn't cheating on me. She'd been subletting her apartment to him. A few hours here and there, whenever he needed somewhere private. Private for what? For his affair. Ryan had been cheating on his wife, Sarah, for months, and Mia had been giving him a place to do it. The room started spinning. This wasn't just about Mia anymore. This was about Ryan, my best friend, the guy who'd been in my wedding party, who I'd known for over 20 years. He was destroying his marriage, lying to Sarah, using my girlfriend's apartment as his personal hookup spot. And Mia knew. She knew, and she helped him. I asked him why. Why would he do this? Why would Mia help him? He said he'd asked her for a favor, told her he needed space away from home sometimes, and she'd agreed without asking too many questions. He claimed she didn't know the full extent of it, but I didn't believe him. You don't sublet your apartment to someone for secret meetings and not know what's going on. Then he begged me not to tell Sarah, said it would destroy his family, that he had kids to think about, that he was going to end it anyway, and telling her would just cause unnecessary pain. He actually used the word unnecessary, like his wife didn't deserve to know her husband was cheating on her. I left without saying another word. Drove straight to Mia's office and waited in the parking lot until she came out. When she saw me, she knew immediately. I asked her if it was true, if she'd been letting Ryan use her place for an affair. She didn't deny it. She said he'd asked her for help and she didn't think it was her place to judge, that it wasn't her relationship, wasn't her business. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She'd watched me spiral for weeks, thinking she was the one cheating, and she never said anything. She let me doubt her, doubt us, while she was actively enabling my best friend's betrayal. I asked her how she could do that, how she could keep something like that from me. She said she'd promised Ryan she wouldn't tell anyone, that she was just trying to be a good friend to him. A good friend. To him, not to me, not to Sarah. To the guy who was lying to everyone. We broke up that night, not because she cheated, but because I couldn't trust her judgment anymore. I couldn't be with someone who thought that kind of secrecy was acceptable, who prioritized Ryan's affair over honesty and basic decency. Then came the hardest part. I had to decide what to do about Sarah. Ryan called me a dozen times that night, left voicemails begging me to stay out of it, saying it wasn't my place, that I'd be ruining lives for no reason. But I kept thinking about Sarah, about how she had no idea, about how she was living in a lie, just like I had been for weeks. And I thought about what I would want if I were in her position. I told her. I drove to their house the next day and told her everything. She didn't believe me at first, thought I was mistaken, that there had to be some other explanation. So I told her to check Ryan's phone, his messages, his location history. I gave her enough information to find the truth herself. She did, and her world fell apart. Ryan's marriage ended within a month. Sarah filed for divorce, took the kids, and made it very clear that Ryan would be lucky to get supervised visitation after what he'd done. The fallout was brutal. Family members took sides. Friends stopped talking to him. His reputation in our social circle evaporated. And our friendship, that ended too. Ryan blamed me for destroying his family, said I should have stayed out of it, that it wasn't my business, that I'd ruined his life out of spite. He genuinely couldn't see that he'd ruined it himself, that every choice he made led to this exact outcome, and I just refused to help him hide it. I don't talk to Mia anymore either. She reached out a few times, tried to explain herself, said she understood why I was upset, but thought I was overreacting. That word, overreacting, like enabling infidelity and lying by omission, were minor infractions I should just get over. I lost 2 people I loved that day, my best friend and my girlfriend. 2 people I thought I could trust, who turned out to be totally different from who I believed they were. It still hurts, some days more than others, but here's what I know. I kept my integrity. I didn't help cover up a lie. I didn't let Sarah live in ignorance while her husband destroyed their marriage behind her back. I made the hard choice, the one that cost me relationships and caused pain, but it was the right choice. Ryan's kids deserve a father who's honest. Sarah deserves a partner who respects her, and I deserve people in my life who understand that loyalty doesn't mean protecting someone's lies. It means telling the truth even when it's hard. I'm still processing it all, still figuring out how to trust people again, how to rebuild after losing 2 of the most important relationships in my life. But I don't regret what I did. I can live with losing friendships. I couldn't live with being complicit in someone else's betrayal. Sometimes the people closest to you hide the ugliest truths, and sometimes a stranger reveals them instead. I was folding laundry on a Tuesday night when my phone buzzed with a Facebook message request. I almost ignored it. Usually those are spam or people trying to sell me something, but something made me open it. The account had no profile picture, just the default grey silhouette. The name was a random string of letters and numbers, clearly a fake account. And the message was simple, just one sentence. Your husband isn't who you think he is. Attached were screenshots, a lot of them. I clicked on the first one and my stomach dropped. It was a profile on a dating app. The photos were of my husband, not old photos from before we met. Recent ones. One of them was taken in our living room. A selfie he'd supposedly sent to me a few months ago, saying he missed me while I was out of town. Except he hadn't just sent it to me. He'd used it on Tinder. I kept scrolling. Messages to other women. Conversations that were way past friendly. Flirting, planning meetups, saying things that made me feel physically sick. One message thread talked about meeting at a hotel downtown. Another mentioned a weekend trip he'd supposedly taken for work. There were receipts attached, actual hotel receipts with dates that matched up perfectly with times he'd told me he was traveling for business. I sat there on the edge of my bed, laundry forgotten, just staring at my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. This couldn't be real. It had to be fake. Someone photoshopped this. Someone was trying to mess with me, but the details were too specific. The locations, the dates, the photos. Nobody could fake this. I tried to reply to the message, typed out a dozen questions. Who are you? How did you get this? Why are you sending this to me? But before I could hit send, I saw the account had been deleted. Just gone. The message thread was still there, screenshots intact, but the sender had vanished. No profile to click on, no way to respond. Whoever sent it didn't want a conversation. They just wanted me to know. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there going through every screenshot, over and over again, looking for some explanation that would make it not true. But there wasn't one. It was him. His face, his words, his lies, all of it laid out in undeniable detail by a stranger I'd never know. When my husband got home from work the next day, I was waiting for him. I didn't say anything at first, just handed him my phone with the screenshots pulled up. He looked confused for about 2 seconds, and then his face went pale. He tried to hand the phone back to me like he could make it go away. I told him to look at all of it, every single screenshot. He scrolled in silence, and I watched his excuses forming behind his eyes. When he finally spoke, he said exactly what I expected. It wasn't what it looked like. He never actually met anyone. It was just online flirting, a stupid mistake, something he did when he was bored or stressed. He swore nothing physical ever happened. He begged me to believe him, said he'd delete everything, go to therapy, do whatever it took to fix this. I pointed to the hotel receipts, told him to explain those. He stammered, tried to say they were for work events, that the dates must have gotten mixed up. I pulled up our shared calendar, showed him that on those exact dates, he'd told me he was staying with a colleague to save money on hotels. He had no answer for that, just stared at the floor and said he was sorry. And here's where it gets absurd. He asked me who sent the screenshots, like that was the important question. Like the issue wasn't that he'd been cheating, but that someone had exposed him. He wanted to know if it was one of the women, if it was a coworker, if it was someone trying to ruin his reputation. I told him I had no idea. The account was deleted, anonymous, and honestly, it didn't matter who sent it. What mattered was that everything in those screenshots was real. He cried, actual tears, told me he loved me, that he'd made a terrible mistake, that he couldn't lose me. And part of me, some stupid, naive part of me, wanted to believe him, wanted to think this was fixable. But I kept seeing those messages, the way he talked to those women, the enthusiasm in his words, the effort he put into lying to me while pursuing them. I told him I needed time. He moved out that week, stayed with his brother while I figured out what I wanted to do. My friends told me to leave him immediately. My mum said marriage takes work, that people make mistakes. Everyone had an opinion, but the only opinion that mattered was mine, and I was devastated. I tried to find out who sent the message. I made a list of everyone who might have access to that kind of information. His co-workers, his friends, women he might have rejected or stood up. I even considered that it could have been one of the women he was talking to, someone who found out he was married and decided to blow up his life. But I had no proof of anything, just theories. The account was gone, untraceable. Whoever did it covered their tracks perfectly. A month later, I filed for divorce. I couldn't get past it. Every time I looked at him, I saw those screenshots. Every time he said he loved me, I heard the messages he'd sent to other women saying the same things. The trust was shattered, and I didn't have the energy to spend years trying to rebuild it, just to wonder if he was lying again. He didn't fight it, signed the papers, moved his stuff out, and that was it. We'd been married for 6 years, together for 8, and it ended because a stranger sent me proof of something I never would have known otherwise. I think about that person sometimes, whoever they were. I've created a dozen scenarios in my head. Maybe it was one of the women he messaged, someone who felt guilty when she realized he was married. Maybe it was an ex of his who wanted revenge. Maybe it was a friend who knew what he was doing and couldn't stay silent anymore. Or maybe it was just a stranger who stumbled onto his profile and felt like I deserved to know. Part of me wishes I could thank them. They saved me from wasting more years on someone who didn't respect me. They gave me the evidence I needed to walk away without second-guessing myself. But another part of me is haunted by the mystery. Why did they do it? What did they get out of it? And why did they disappear immediately after? Like they were afraid of the consequences? I'll never know. And that's the hardest part. Not the betrayal, not the divorce, but the fact that someone out there knows the answers to questions I'll never be able to ask. They freed me from a lie, gave me the truth I needed, and then vanished without a trace. My life is better now. I'm rebuilding. I have my own place, my own routine, my own sense of peace that I didn't have when I was constantly wondering if my husband was being honest with me. But every once in a while, I'll see a message request notification and my heart will skip. Part of me hopes it's them, that they'll reach out again, tell me who they were and why they did it. But it never is. Whoever sent me those screenshots changed my life. They saw something wrong and decided to intervene. Consequences be damned. And then they disappeared, leaving me with the truth and nothing else. I'm grateful. I really am. But I'm also endlessly curious about the person behind that faceless account. The stranger who cared enough to tell me the truth, but not enough to stick around and see what happened next. I guess some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Some people are meant to pass through your life just long enough to change its direction, and then fade away like they were never there. And maybe that's okay. Maybe the why doesn't matter as much as the what. They gave me the truth, and the truth, as painful as it was, set me free. Anonymous truth tellers can be angels, but documented truth, that's even more powerful, as this next person discovered. Jenna and I started at the company around the same time. We were both junior analysts, both trying to prove ourselves, both eager to move up. At first, we were friendly. Not friends exactly, but cordial. We'd grab coffee in the break room, make small talk about projects, the usual co-worker stuff. I didn't see her as competition. I figured there was room for both of us to succeed. She didn't see it that way. It started small. I'd mention an idea in a team meeting, and a few days later, Jenna would present a nearly identical concept to our supervisor, framed as if she'd come up with it independently. The first time it happened, I thought it was a coincidence. The second time, I started to wonder. By the third time, I knew exactly what she was doing, but proving it was another matter entirely. Then she started bad-mouthing me to supervisors. I'd hear things secondhand from colleagues who thought I should know. Jenna told our manager I was difficult to work with. She said I missed deadlines, which wasn't true. She claimed I didn't pull my weight on group projects, even though I was consistently staying late to finish work she'd conveniently forgotten to do. Every time I tried to defend myself, it looked like I was being defensive or making excuses. She was playing the game better than I was, and it was working. The worst part was the files. I'd spend hours on reports, save them to the shared drive, and then the next morning they'd be gone. Corrupted, deleted, missing. It happened 3 times in 2 months. It couldn't figure out what was causing it. They chalked it up to server issues. I started backing everything up in multiple places, but the damage was already done. I looked incompetent, unreliable, like I couldn't even manage basic file organization. I knew it was her. I just couldn't prove it. Then I started noticing something else. Small things on my desk would be moved. A pen I'd left on the right side of my keyboard would be on the left. Papers I'd stacked neatly would be slightly disheveled. My coffee mug shifted a few inches from where I'd left it. At first, I thought I was being paranoid. Maybe the cleaning crew was moving things. Maybe I was misremembering where I'd put stuff. But it kept happening. Every single morning, something was different. That's when I decided to set up a camera. I did my research first, checked the laws in my state about recording in the workplace. Turns out, as long as the camera is focused on my personal workspace and my own property, it's completely legal. I wasn't recording common areas or other people's desks, just mine. I bought a small motion-activated camera online, the kind that's designed to look like a regular desk accessory. Set it up angled toward my computer and desk drawers, and then I waited. The first night, nothing. Just me arriving in the morning, sitting down, working. The second night, same thing. I started to think maybe I really was being paranoid. But then, on the third night, I got something. Jenna, clear as day. She came to my desk at 7:30 in the morning, a full hour before I usually arrived. She looked around to make sure no one was watching, and then she opened my desk drawers. She went through my files, pulled out documents, and photographed them with her phone. Then she turned to my computer. I'd left it logged in, a stupid mistake I'd made a few times when I was rushing out the door. She scrolled through my files, found a report I'd been working on, and deleted it. Just highlighted it and hit delete. Didn't even try to hide it. Then she emptied the recycle bin, stood up, smoothed her clothes, and walked away like nothing happened. I watched the footage 3 times, just to make sure I wasn't seeing things. But no, it was right there. Concrete, undeniable evidence of sabotage. I checked the other days of footage. There were more instances. Her going through my things, moving items around, taking photos of project notes. One video even caught her talking to herself, muttering something about how I didn't deserve the promotion I'd been working toward. It was unhinged, and it was all recorded. I didn't confront her. I didn't tell anyone at work. I just compiled everything into a clean, organized file. I pulled the best clips, added timestamps, wrote up a detailed explanation of what had been happening and how long it had been going on. I included context for each video, explained the pattern of behavior, and attached documentation of the missing files and the complaints she'd made about me to supervisors. Then I sent it all to HR. They responded within 2 hours, wanted to meet with me that afternoon. I brought my laptop, showed them the footage in person, walked them through everything. They didn't say much during the meeting, just took notes and asked a few clarifying questions. But I could see it on their faces. They were pissed. Jenna was called into HR the next morning. I don't know exactly what was said in that meeting, but she didn't come back to her desk afterward. By the end of the day, her workspace was cleared out. She was gone, fired, effective, immediately. What happened next? Nobody saw it coming. She tried to sue me, claimed I'd invaded her privacy, that I'd recorded her without consent, that I'd violated her rights. She actually got a lawyer and sent me a letter threatening legal action. I forwarded it to my own lawyer, who read it, laughed, and told me she didn't have a case. The camera was pointed at my desk, my property, my workspace. She had no reasonable expectation of privacy while rifling through my things. The case went nowhere. Her lawyer dropped her after the initial consultation, once they realized how flimsy the argument was. HR offered me her position, senior analyst, the role I'd been working toward for over a year, the role Jenna had been sabotaging me to try to get for herself. I accepted, not because I wanted her job specifically, but because I'd earned it. I'd put in the work, I'd dealt with her sabotage, and I'd handled it the right way. The office was weird for a while after she left. People asked questions, rumors spread about what happened. I didn't feed into it. I just said there'd been a personnel issue that HR handled and left it at that. Eventually, things settled down. A new analyst was hired to fill my old position. Life went on. I still have the camera. I don't use it anymore, but I keep it as a reminder that patience and evidence beat confrontation every time. I could have gone to HR months earlier with complaints and suspicions, but without proof, it would have been my word against hers, and she was better at playing the political game than I was. She would have won. But I waited. I documented. I gathered evidence. And when I finally made my move, there was no room for doubt, no way for her to talk her way out of it. Just cold, hard proof of exactly what she'd been doing. Do I feel bad about getting her fired? Not even a little. She made her choices. She decided to sabotage a coworker instead of just doing her own work. She decided to lie, manipulate, and destroy my files because she saw me as a threat, and she got caught. That's on her, not me. I learned a lot from that experience. I learned that not everyone in the workplace has your best interests at heart. I learned that some people will smile to your face and stab you in the back the second it benefits them. And I learned that the best revenge isn't confrontation or drama. It's just making sure the right people see the truth. Jenna thought she was smarter than me, thought she could get away with it because she'd been careful. But she got comfortable. She got sloppy, and that tiny camera caught every second of it. Work betrayals are brutal, but nothing compares to discovering the person you trusted most has been lying to your face. My dad talked about Linda constantly. Linda said this funny thing at the meeting. Linda helped him close a big deal. Linda suggested this great restaurant we should try. It was always Linda this, Linda that. At first, I didn't think much of it. He worked in sales, had a whole team of people he collaborated with, and Linda was apparently one of his top colleagues. My mum never seemed bothered by it. She'd nod along when he told his stories, laugh at the appropriate moments, ask follow-up questions. If she had concerns, she never showed them. Linda started appearing in more than just stories. She was at the company holiday party, at the summer picnic, at the happy hours my dad would mention in passing. I'd met her a few times at these events, and she seemed nice enough. Professional, friendly, always dressed impeccably. She'd shake my hand, ask about school, make small talk about how proud my dad was of me. Normal coworker stuff. Then one night I was out with friends at a restaurant downtown. We'd just finished eating and I was waiting for the check when I saw them. My dad and Linda, sitting in a corner booth, not facing the main dining area, but visible if you knew where to look. And they were holding hands, not in a casual, friendly way, in a very deliberate, intimate way. She was leaning in close, saying something that made him smile, and his thumb was doing that gentle stroking thing people do when they're comfortable with someone. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My friends were still talking, laughing about something I'd already forgotten, but I couldn't focus on anything except that table. I pulled out my phone and took a photo. My hands were shaking, and the image came out slightly blurry, but it was clear enough to see exactly what was happening. I didn't confront them that night. I just paid my part of the bill and left with my friends, acting like everything was normal while my brain was racing through 1,000 thoughts at once. When I got home, my mum was in the living room watching TV. My dad wasn't home yet, still out with Linda apparently. I sat down next to her and showed her the photo without saying a word. She looked at it for a long time. Then she handed my phone back to me and said, "I know." I stared at her. She knew. She'd known this whole time and just acted like everything was fine. She explained it to me then, in this calm, detached voice that made the whole thing even more surreal. She'd known about Linda for 2 years. She'd found messages, noticed the signs, confronted my dad, and he'd admitted it. They'd talked about divorce, but ultimately decided against it. My mum said she stayed for financial stability, for me and my sister, for the life we'd built. She said it was easier to keep things as they were than to blow everything up. She begged me not to confront him. She said it would only make things worse, that it wouldn't change anything, that I needed to let her handle it in her own way. But I couldn't. I couldn't just sit there and pretend I didn't know. Couldn't watch my dad come home and kiss my mum on the cheek like he hadn't just been holding another woman's hand at some restaurant across town. So 2 days later, I went back to that restaurant. Same time, same night of the week. And sure enough, they were there again. Same corner booth, same intimate conversation. I walked right up to their table. My dad saw me first, and his face went completely white. Linda looked confused, then recognized me, and the confusion turned into panic. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just looked at Linda and asked her if she enjoyed ruining families. My voice was steady, calm, almost detached. My dad tried to interject, tried to get me to leave, but I ignored him. I told Linda that she was sleeping with a married man who had 2 kids at home, and that whatever he'd told her about his marriage was probably a lie. Then I turned to my dad and told him Mom already knew, that she'd known for years, and that he was pathetic for thinking he was getting away with anything. Linda left, just stood up, grabbed her purse and walked out without saying a word. My dad sat there staring at the table, looking like he wanted to disappear. He tried to talk to me, tried to explain, but I didn't want to hear it. I told him he could come home and have that conversation with Mom, but I was done. Then I left. The fallout was immediate. My dad came home that night and he and my mom had a massive fight. Not the kind where people yell and throw things, but the cold, brutal kind where every word is designed to hurt. I heard it from my room, even though I was trying not to listen. My younger sister had no idea what was going on, and I didn't tell her. She was only 13. She didn't need to know yet. My dad and I didn't speak for a year. He'd try sometimes, leave notes, send texts, but I ignored all of it. I was so angry. Angry at him for cheating, angry at my mum for staying, angry at myself for being the one who had to blow it all up. My mum tried to mediate, tried to get us to talk, but I wasn't ready. My parents stayed together. They're still together now, years later. But it's not a real marriage. It's a performance. They coexist in the same house, show up to family events together, maintain the facade for my sister and for their friends. But there's no warmth there, no intimacy. They're roommates playing the role of a married couple, and everyone who knows them well enough can see it. I don't know what happened with Linda. I assume the affair ended after I confronted them, but I never asked and my dad never said. Honestly, I don't care. She was just a symptom of a bigger problem, and that problem was my dad's inability to be honest about what he wanted. My relationship with my dad eventually thawed, not because I forgave him, but because holding on to that anger was exhausting. We talk now, surface level stuff mostly. He asks about my job, I ask about his. We don't discuss Linda. We don't discuss what happened. It's just this unspoken thing that sits between us, acknowledged but never addressed. My mum and I have a complicated relationship now too. I understand why she stayed, logically. Financial stability, keeping the family together, all of that makes sense on paper. But emotionally, I can't reconcile it. I can't understand how you stay with someone who betrayed you like that. How you smile and play the part of a happy wife when you know the truth. She says I'll understand when I'm older, when I have my own family and my own complicated decisions to make. Maybe she's right, but I hope she's not. My sister found out eventually. She was 16 when my mum finally told her, sat her down and explained the situation in the same calm, detached way she'd explained it to me. My sister took it differently. She didn't confront anyone, she just withdrew, stopped engaging with family dinners, spent more time at friends' houses, built walls that I don't think have ever fully come down. I don't regret confronting them. People have asked me if I do, if I wish I'd just stayed out of it like my mum wanted. But no, some secrets shouldn't be kept. Some illusions need to be shattered. My family wasn't happy. We were just pretending to be, and pretending doesn't protect anyone. It just delays the inevitable and makes the crash worse when it finally comes. My dad's betrayal didn't just hurt my mum. It hurt all of us. It changed the way I see relationships, the way I trust people, the way I think about marriage and commitment. And maybe confronting him didn't fix anything. Maybe it even made things worse in some ways. But at least it was honest. At least it forced everyone to stop pretending, even if just for a moment. Because living in a lie, even a comfortable one, isn't really living at all. Family illusions are fragile, but so are the reputations people build online, as this next story proves. Derek and I dated for 3 years. The relationship ended badly. He cheated, I found out, and I walked away. No big dramatic confrontation, no public call-out, no revenge plot. I just left. Blocked him on everything, moved to a different part of the city, started rebuilding my life. It hurt, but I dealt with it like an adult and moved on. 2 years later, I thought I was completely over it. I had a new job, new friends, a new routine. Derek was a closed chapter. Then one afternoon, a mutual friend sent me a link with the message, "You need to see this." It was a Twitter thread, Derek's Twitter thread, and it was about me. He didn't use my name. He was smart enough not to do that, but the details were specific enough that anyone who knew us both would recognize exactly who he was talking about. He was going on about crazy exes, about how he dodged a bullet, about women who can't let go and turn vindictive when relationships end. He painted this picture of me as someone who was obsessive, unstable, borderline stalkerish. He made it sound like I was the problem, like he'd barely escaped some toxic nightmare. The thread had hundreds of likes. People were replying with their own stories, commiserating, telling him he deserved better. And there, in his bio, was a new detail I hadn't known about. He was engaged. To someone named Jessica. Her handle was tagged in a few of his recent tweets. Lots of lovey-dovey couple photos. The whole performance of a perfect relationship. I sat there reading through the thread multiple times, feeling this mix of anger and disbelief. He'd cheated on me, he'd lied to me for months, and now he was rewriting history, making himself the victim, getting sympathy from strangers who had no idea what actually happened, and he was about to marry someone who probably believed his version of events. I could have let it go. Part of me wanted to. It had been 2 years. I'd moved on. Getting involved would just drag me back into drama I didn't need. But then I remembered something. I still had screenshots, lots of them. After I caught Derek cheating and broke up with him, he spent weeks trying to get me back. Sent me long messages apologizing, admitting what he'd done, begging for another chance. He laid out everything in explicit detail. The affair, how long it had been going on, how guilty he felt, how much he regretted it. I'd screenshotted the messages at the time because I wanted proof, wanted to make sure I wasn't misremembering or letting him gaslight me later. And I'd never deleted them. I pulled them up, read through them again, and then I made a decision. I found Jessica's profile. It was public, easy to locate through Derek's tags. I sent her a direct message, kept it simple, no dramatics, just said, "I'm Derek's ex. I think you should know who you're marrying," and attached the screenshots, all of them. The apologies, the admissions of guilt, the messages where he begged me to forgive him for cheating. I included dates, context, everything she'd need to understand the full picture. Then I closed the app and waited. Jessica responded 3 hours later. She didn't say much, just, "Thank you for telling me," and "I need time to process this." I told her I understood, that I wasn't trying to start drama, I just thought she deserved to know the truth. She thanked me again, and that was it. I didn't hear from her after that, but I did hear about the fallout. Mutual friends started messaging me within days. The engagement was off. Jessica had confronted Derek with the screenshots, and he apparently tried to claim they were fake, that I'd manipulated them, that I was obsessed with ruining his life. She didn't believe him. She called off the wedding, moved out, and from what I heard, she told several of their mutual friends exactly why. Derek's Twitter went silent for about a week. Then he deleted the thread about crazy exes. Then he deleted his entire account. Just gone. No explanation, no final post, just vanished from the platform entirely. A few people reached out to me asking what happened, if I'd done something. I didn't confirm or deny anything. Just said that the truth has a way of surfacing, and left it at that. Some people probably guessed. Others might still think Jessica just got cold feet. I didn't care either way. Do I feel guilty? Not even a little. Derek chose to rewrite history. He chose to publicly trash me while playing the victim. He chose to build a relationship with Jessica on a foundation of lies about who he was and what had happened in his past. I didn't ruin his engagement. He did that himself the moment he decided to lie about everything. If he'd just moved on quietly, lived his life without dragging my name through the mud, online, I would have never said anything. Jessica would have married him, maybe found out the truth later, maybe never found out at all, but he couldn't do that. He had to get online and paint himself as the wronged party, had to get validation from strangers by making me look unstable. He forgot one crucial thing though, the receipts still existed, and receipts don't lie. I think about Jessica sometimes, wonder how she's doing, if she's okay. I hope she is. I hope she found someone who actually deserves her, someone who doesn't need to rewrite history to make themselves look good. She thanked me for telling her, and I genuinely believe she meant it. Nobody wants to marry someone based on a lie. Derek, on the other hand, I don't think about much anymore. He's back to being a closed chapter, just with a slightly more satisfying ending this time. He learned an important lesson, or at least I hope he did. If you're going to publicly trash your ex and rewrite what happened, make sure they don't still have evidence proving otherwise. Make sure the truth isn't just sitting there, waiting for the right moment to surface. Because truth has a way of finding the people who need it most. And sometimes it just needs a little help getting there. And that, everyone, is where we'll close the book on tonight's chaos. 15 stories, 15 reminders that secrets, lies, and betrayal have a way of surfacing, whether through a stranger's message, a hidden camera, or just the truth refusing to stay buried. If you've made it this far, you're clearly hooked on the drama, just like I am. Drop a comment and let me know which story hit the hardest, or if you've got your own Reddit-worthy tale, I'm all ears. Sweet dreams, everyone, and remember, the truth might hurt, but lies hurt worse. Stay honest, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next one. Sleep well.